Hi, everyone, and welcome to the pre-show of Sreshtha's Purposely Passionate About Domestic Abuse Awareness series. Now, some of you may know her, some of you may not know her, but if you don't know her, Sreshtha is a passionate person. She's very, very passionate, and she's especially passionate about making a difference and helping women to be the best that they can be. She believes learning from her mistakes and using her journey to inspire others to live their most authentic life. She uses her love and motivation as a Zumba instructor to channel her energy to people and to help them receive that positive vibration, positive energy, because she has a very positive heart at her very core. So she joins me today. Hi, Shrestha. How you doing?
Hi, Bella. Thank you so much.
Good. So, domestic abuse awareness. What drove you to this cause?
Well, around 2017, a few things happened in my personal life. The first thing is that one of my very best friends from school, she was what I would call a subtly abusive space. Her husband never hit her, but he would do things like poke her until she falls off the bed. He would be verbally abusive, and I just thought this is wrong. I didn't really know much about domestic abuse and what it was classified as. I mean, we all know physical abuse is wrong, but from that I started reading on it, and then around that time, two of my best friends in turn had friends who died out of a domestically abusive situation. One friend, one of her good friends, died in a murder-suicide situation. The husband had cheated on her. She left. He wanted her back, and she was with him. He killed her and then killed himself. And then one of my other good friends had a friend again who was killed in a domestically abusive situation. And I thought I wanted to raise awareness in respect of the fact that domestic abuse is not just physical. It could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be economic. And a lot of times these situations, they aren't violent until you tell your partner, I don't want to be with you anymore, I want to divorce, I want to break free. So I wanted to raise awareness so that women would be aware. And I know men go through it too, but my primary target is women because that's who I relate to. So that they would be aware of what are the flags that they look for when getting into the relationship, so they could be better prepared to exit early, or if they are in the situation, decide if it is they need to have a conversation with their partner, see a therapist, someone who could guide them on how to live a healthier life, or if they need to exit in the safest way possible. And from that, I actually did the Know Your Options event, which you were a part of in 2017. Yeah.
And I mean, being a woman myself, I would say I've had friends of my own who have been in abusive relationships, whether it be physical or emotional or mental abuse. And this to me, when it's not physical, I think it's so hard to identify for yourself that you're actually in an abusive relationship. And I think this initiative is such a great initiative because a lot of women don't know that they're actually in an abusive relationship. They don't know how to identify, wow, this is a cycle that I'm in, I'm unhappy. They don't know because they end up staying in relationships for so long and it becomes their norm, and before they know it, they're in a cycle and they don't know how to get out of it. So I think that is key in an initiative like this. So tell me, what else or what would you expect people to get from this initiative, from your perspective?
Yeah. Well, the intent of the initiative is really to heal through compassion. So it's not about blaming other persons. It's not about blaming your partner, blaming your family, or shaming anyone. It's about presenting survivors with whom persons can relate to. So in domestically abusive situations, it can affect anyone, right? Whether you're a housewife, whether you're a CEO, whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever religion, whatever race you are, it doesn't matter. It can affect you. So the intent is to show that through the survivor stories, all of whom right now are my friends, even though I think I may get some who are not, because as I present, more people are coming forward. But it is really to show that it doesn't matter really. All of these women, I have done 3 interviews so far in preparation for this series. All of them, this story is very similar. So I would want persons to be able to identify just what you said, to understand what is mental abuse, what is emotional abuse, when your partner is yelling at you, when you have to walk on eggshells around your partner, when your partner thinks he's the master of the castle, when your partner is consistently threatening to take the children. All of these things by law are defined as abuse. Mental and emotional abuse is patterned behavior that intends to intimidate or control the person that you're with. So what I really want people to get is really to be aware of it, so that somewhere along the line when you are getting into a relationship, before it reaches so far as you're so in love with this person, when it is more difficult to exit, you would be able to see the signs more at the beginning, so more of a preventative approach, and stop the relationship at the point where you have more control before you really, really love this person. And then it becomes, as women, we feel sorry, right? The person did us wrong, but we feel sorry. And we want to go back. And the person don't care. They just enjoy that you are enabling a life that they like. They don't care about your feelings, but we take so much abuse. And I have friends who went through divorce out of abusive relationships and still felt sorry for the person and wanted to go back. So it's really to identify that before we get into that in love phase where we kind of try to get into, where it's harder to exit.
I mean, you said something there. You said you were interviewing women, right? So my next question is a bit twofold. One, what can we expect out of this series? Like, what can we look forward to coming up? You hinted interviews. What else? Like, give us an example of what can we look forward to in the episodes to come, and tell us how is this initiative different from the one you did before, the one that I was at?
Okay, so well, with respect to this series, I do have these survivor stories where I just basically let them talk and tell their story. So when I sort of advertise the episode, I just give the characteristics of the person, right? What the person is in terms of their role in society, be it a housewife, admin assistant, whatever that is. And I highlight the religion as well, basically to show that it doesn't matter, right? Whatever it is, you can be affected by it. So I basically let them tell their story. I also have therapists contributing to the series to speak really to what is abuse on a psychological level, how it affects us, how can we cope. I want to talk about things like narcissistic relationships, because I have so many friends who have been in these relationships. What drives murder, suicide behavior, a host of other things. I mean, you know me, I have a lot of things and I have all my questions done, but I really want to get into things like that so we could understand to where this comes from, because everything is based, a lot of it, I don't want to say everything, but a lot of it is based on our childhood and how we grew up, and the behaviors we emulate really comes from the construct of our society as well. And I also have a team of lawyers who contribute to this series as well, who would speak according to law, what is defined as abuse, what are women's rights, how can women go about protecting themselves within Trinidad and Tobago, and they give guidance in respect of how can you move forward within our legislation, our framework, in order to protect yourself and come out of the relationship if necessary. And I also included alternative healers, because I believe in understanding all of these things, we also need to be able to cope. We have professionals like on the therapeutic level, but there are other things that help me in my life that I wanted to be able to share. So things like mindfulness, meditation, Reiki. I have a shamanic Reiki. I have a sound one who will talk on sound and how that heals. I have one on determining your self-worth. So it's a lot of things really to contribute to the wholeness of a woman and herself in a relationship.
Would any of these sessions be interactive sessions? So let's say, for example, someone wants to ask a question, or if they want to get in touch with a lawyer or come on to the series, they want to share their story. How can they do that?
they would have to message me. So one of the reasons I decided not to do live, which was my first go-to to do it live, is because that women or people generally in these situations, they don't like persons to know they're going through it. So like somebody might say, well, Sreshtha, you have so much people on your IG and on your Facebook page. Why are you going to YouTube where you have 0 people?
Yeah.
And the answer is, on my IG, if I do it live and if you tune in, you will see, for example, you will see Bella is watching. Now, Bella may be in a situation that she doesn't want anybody else to know about, and she doesn't want anybody else to know she's watching this. On YouTube, it gives you an anonymous presence. Unless you sign in to YouTube, you could access the information anonymously. And one thing I learned from the last one I did, Bella, is that persons are afraid, some are maybe ashamed to access the information, so they don't come out, they don't show their face. But YouTube gave me the ability to give women and whoever else wants to access the information a sense of comfort that they can do this anonymously within their own space. I think you asked me something else. I forget what was the other thing you asked me.
How was it different from the last initiative you did?
All right, so that's why it's different, because the last one was physical. It was in a physical space. You had to come. So I guess you ran the risk of persons knowing you are going to this event and then persons seeing you then wondering about your status. But this one gives you that anonymity. Oh, and you had asked me about questions. So because to keep it anonymous, what I had done is a couple weeks ago, I had put up a way to ask questions anonymously, which the therapist and lawyer would address. But during those sessions, specifically with the professionals, I will have back up a slido.com link where you can go and ask questions again that I can answer in a future series. So it wouldn't be interactive to answer your question. I will have the chat up during the premiere and I will talk and converse if anybody wants to talk, but then again, that gives your identity away. So I will still have up the Slido where you can go and anonymously ask your questions that I will try to address in a future episode.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot about the survivors or people not wanting their identity seen or identified in any way. But you have survivors talking, like what was the process in getting them to open up and actually share their story? What caused that?
Well, the survivors I have talking are really my friends. So when I was going to do this series, I asked the persons I knew that were in these relationships, and I also, on my own Facebook page, I just asked if anybody would like to contribute. And I did get persons contributing. However, I only have one survivor that shows her face. The others I all did anonymously. So they gave themselves an alias and I addressed them by this alias, and you would not see their face. You would see like a shadow, but I didn't want to put them in any danger because, like, you know, some of them may still be going through their divorce or the separation of the assets or the children. And I told them, I want you to be comfortable that you're doing this. It is not about me. It is about you being comfortable enough to share your story, and your safety is of the utmost importance. And I gave them the option of doing it anonymously, and all except one took that option. And even like I had one girl she was really a little bit hesitant, but I left it up to her, and she told me that one of her friends, his aunt, was in a domestically abusive relationship, and the aunt had escaped and she went away and started her own life, and now the person who was abusing her is retired and followed her up and harassing her again. And so she had sent a piece of something I did with her to the aunt, who's a 70-year-old person now. And the aunt told her that you are so brave and you are such an inspiration, and I'm so glad that you are brave enough to do this. And she says, Sreshtha, if all this does is gives this person, this 70-year-old person, hope of a better tomorrow, I'm glad I was part of this with you. And that is what I want, really, to just heal through compassion with these stories and with these survivors.
Wow. This is such a great initiative. I mean, one, it gives women, a safe space to talk about their experiences. It gives them access to resources that they may or may not have known was available to them. It also connects us women with other women who may have gone through similar experiences and stories. Would you have like any kind of, let's say, like a sign up list or something after, so that these ladies who are listening, who are taking part in the series, can connect with each other after and kind of provide that type of support system?
I don't have a sign up list. There are groups that exist, and I am working on a few things on Clubhouse to provide support for persons going through divorce, just to have a space to talk about healing through that kind of situations. I mean, it could be divorce if you're married, but even if you're breaking up with a partner, not everybody is married. But at the end of the series, what I do as well is I put the information for a therapist, because I really believe that therapy helps us so much. I had to go through therapy last year. I was becoming extremely anxious about certain things in my personal life, and it helped me discover so much about my childhood and even why I got into the relationships I got into my adulthood. So the support is really to kind of lead the woman to the information for professional help at this point in time. So I have up the link to the Psychology Association website, and to the 800-SAVE, which is the domestic violence hotline. Me, myself, is more about giving people the resources. I don't have the time and stuff to actually form a support group, so to say, but there will be things that you see coming out that you can access once you stay tuned to my IG.
Great. Good stuff. This was a great chat. My takeaway, I would say, is I think even if a woman is not in a relationship right now and not in a marriage, this still applies to you, because you can have an abusive relationship with a friend. You can have an abusive relationship with a family member. There may be things that come out of this series that may be so applicable to you and what you are going through, even though you're not exactly in a relationship or marriage, and you would have access to resources that you may also know that was never available to you before, or you may not know that is available to you, right? So that's my personal takeaway from this. So I'm looking forward to it for that. My last question is there a schedule that we can see in advance of what sessions are happening and when, and where can we find that?
Yes, so you will see the schedule actually under this pre-show. You will see everything that's coming up. So it can be accessed on this YouTube channel. But every week as well, once you're on my IG and my official Facebook page, Sreshtha Purposefully Passionate, I will also be posting what's coming up and little clips so that you can, if it resonates with you, you could be sure to tune in. Or even if you miss the time of the premiere, you can always access it after. But I do want to say, I'm so glad you said, you spoke about relating the situation to other situations, because the thing is, abuse is prevalent in our society, in our offices, in our families, in everything. And some of the things, the cause is focused on domestic sort of partnership relationships, but it can apply to anything. And I'm really glad that you got that from it, because that is part I want to actually go into as part of another series, our childhood and how that affects us, and how a domestically abusive situation affects children. So I'm glad that you got that from our little chat.
All right, guys. So this is Sreshtha's Purposely Passionate About Domestic Abuse Awareness series. Stay tuned for the episodes to come, and we look forward to hearing and seeing your feedback.